Bennett Road's a school in the middle of the western suburbs, out towards St Mary's, in a place called Collerton. We have 520 students at present and growing. We have a mixture of cultures. We have a significant number of Aboriginal students here. We have an Aboriginal education officer. Our funding and everything that we get from our school here, as I said, the majority of our funding has been spent on literacy and numeracy, because when I came to the school here, they didn't have many resources in that area, and looking at the NAPLAN results, they needed to improve a great deal. So we put a plan together, worked with the staff, had a review, and we decided that we were going to concentrate totally on the literacy and numeracy, because without literate and numerate students, they can't really access the other sections of the curriculums. So with the money that we had at the time, we got equity funding. I was lucky enough to get transitional equity funding, over $100 and something thousand, and we were able to spend it on really good quality reading materials that the school didn't have. Without that money, I wouldn't have had a chance of being able to purchase those resources. Basically, it comes in through our RAM, which is the money that the government give us from, to be able to run the school, basically. Which is outside our global funds, and it goes on the complexity of the school. You know, how many Aboriginal students you've got, students with disabilities, students from backgrounds other than English, and so on. And that's how we get that funding, and that's the extra funding that we're able to use, whether it's to employ extra teachers, as I said before, resources, professional development of teachers. We find that the best professional development of teachers has been here at school during the day in the classrooms, not necessarily sending teachers off to different courses in different places. And their development, they can actually have people like an instructional leader, as I said before, from Early Action Success, actually working in the classrooms with the teachers, developing them professionally and working on their pedagogy and so on. We also have a speech therapist that we're able to employ 1 day a week to work with children that we've identified that need some help in that area. When we first started, obviously we're not speech therapists and trained in that area. We thought that we might have 10 or something like that, but in a school of 520, we've identified about 30 children that actually need help in this area. So without that funding coming through from Gonski money, obviously, and equity money and things like that, we wouldn't be able to employ speech therapists, because they're very expensive, as you can imagine, over $600 and something a day. And with the money too, especially with the teacher development, professional development and developing their pedagogy, a casual costs $500 a day. So if I haven't got funding coming in, being able to cover teachers, to release them off class, to actually let them go and watch other teachers in other classrooms, to work with our instructional leaders, obviously I wouldn't be able to improve the student outcomes of the children at the moment. And we can directly relate with our results that we've got when we have to report every 5 weeks in reading that our reading has improved over the last 3 years that we've been part of that program, and we know that we've got an extension to next year, so we're able to keep our instructional leader through for a 4th year. The big thing about the money coming in from Gonski is that consistency. We know that our school, we know that it takes at least 3 years to affect any change in a school, and anybody knows that they're trying to do anything with, especially with literacy and numeracy, if you haven't got that funding coming through consistently over a considerable period of time, it's not going to happen. And you can't get results in the short term. You need money that can go 3-4 years, so that you get consistency in whatever program you're doing, that you can actually, so it actually does have an effect. It helps the teachers, and it also helps the students in the classroom. Well, without that consistency, it's very hard to plan as a leader, because if I find out the funding is, say, finishing at the end of this year, that affects me straight away. There's less staff I can employ. People have to, won't be employed here at the school. Things like the speech therapy that helps out at the school, we wouldn't have that. And all those little things compound an effect, and we've got our reading recovery programs and whatever's happening in the classroom with teachers, professional development, pedagogy, the whole thing impacts. So straight away you're virtually almost trying to reconstruct or refocus your whole school with less money, and all those good things that are happening, and the community are very proud of what's happening at the school, they start to disappear, and you just haven't got the funding, and obviously your learning outcomes for the students slip back. you know, the things that you can offer the community. My community, for instance, couldn't afford to be able to supply all the resources I need at the school, like the especially quality literacy books that we have now. They didn't have the funds. You know, we have an excellent P&C, very active, over 20 people, and they do everything they possibly can to raise money for us, but they can't raise the sorts of money that that I can get from Gonski funding and things like that. They might be able to raise a few $1,000s, but not the sort of money that I need to run programs at a school. So it would have a massive effect on Bennett Road, my school here as well. And other schools I've been principal at when I was at St Mary's, we were part of the National Partnerships program. And when that money ran out, the same thing, all of a sudden the teachers suddenly, it goes for 3 years and the teachers get a bit, oh, it's always going to be there. But when the money disappears and they can't go to professional development courses, or they can't get the extra sort of resources that you need in the classroom, then the community starts to notice and so on. So it doesn't just affect me as a leader, it affects every single person, the whole community, whole school community becomes affected by the whole thing. One of the big things, again, would be working with the teachers, especially this professional development of pedagogy and what they do in the classrooms. Because if you have a teacher that's an expert teacher in what they're doing in the classroom with their teaching and their knowledge of what their students are capable of, obviously it's going to have direct results straight away on what happens with the learning outcomes of the students in the classrooms. So it directly affects that straight away. So if I know that I've got extra money coming in and so on, I can plan, you know, for the future over the next couple of years and say, yes, we can continue the successful programs that we've got going here at Bennett Road. Yes, I can get other people in expertise in certain areas to come in and help the teachers. And that's what they're looking for. In all the schools I've been to, they need extra help, outside help, because you can't be an expert in every single area, especially in primary schools. So we're lucky that if you can employ someone who is a specialist in literacy or a specialist in numeracy, or like I said, in speech, those sorts of things, that's the big things that have the biggest impact in the classroom on the teachers, obviously, which we do, and then the students. So we focus on the teachers, pedagogy and the way they teach and what they do in the classroom, which has a direct effect on the students. In the past, some other programs used to focus just entirely on the student, and it just wasn't getting the same results, because we need those expert, knowledgeable teachers in front of the classrooms, in front of the children in the room. I'd just like to mention technology. We're talking about having 21st century learners. Here at the school, we did have our TPL and our rollout with computers and so on, but we didn't have access to what other schools around us would have unless I had that equity money to be able to buy iPads, for instance, that the children, tablets that they can use in the classrooms, and which enhance whatever program in literacy, numeracy, whatever they're doing. I would never have been able to afford those. So we're able to have lessons now in the classroom where the children have access to iPads and extra technology, not just the traditional technology of the computers that we've had in the past, and the extra things that portable technology like tablets and things that can bring to learning, and not necessarily in the classroom. Then you're outside the classroom, you can take that with you into the playground or whatever. But I would never have been able to afford that, and the community, no matter how hard they tried, they would never have been able to raise that amount of money to be able to afford that sort of technology for Bennett Road Public School. We've been very lucky here at the school. The building and the maintenance at the school is not too bad at this school, but so most of my money, as I said, I've put into resources and professional learning and so on with the teachers. But again, without the resources and the proper things that the teachers need to use in the classroom, whether it's the quality literacy, like the books, or the maths, just the maths equipment that they need, you know, if they're going to do a lesson on measuring and whatever, they need trundle wheels, or they need calculators, or they need 3D shapes and all those sorts of things. If you haven't got it, it's all very well to talk about it and show it, but the kids being able to actually use these mathematical instruments or whatever, it makes a tremendous difference, hands-on approach to everything as well. We have an IM class here, we have an IO class, MC class, sorry, and we also have an ED-BD unit here, and again, we get some money, you know, obviously the teacher, you get the teacher allowance, and I've got an assistant principal who looks after those classes, but again, unless I have extra resources for those children, extra money coming in, you know, that limits what I can do with those children. So with their special needs and so on like that, they're just as needy as any other child. Sometimes they need extra things in their classrooms and specialist books or specialist equipment or anything like that, which we need to buy and to look after those children as well. My big thing is that being a teacher or a principal at a few schools now is that the impact it has on the community. It's not, taking funds or lack of funding and so on like that. It's not just, as I said, in the classroom. It might start to affect the classroom and the school first, but there's just that gradual effect it has on the whole community. And parents start to get worried that their students or their children at the school just don't have the same opportunities to use the same sorts of things that maybe a school that has a lot of money, like some of them can't afford the iPads and so on like that, and the quality of the literacy, that some of them can't afford the books, and at the same time a lot of the parents might not know what a quality piece of literacy is or things that they can do to help their children. They rely on the school very heavily and myself to set the direction of what we do at the school and what our emphasis is, and at the moment it's on literacy and numeracy, because we want literate, numerate students that can survive in the 21st century, and the school is the main spot, especially in this community, is one of the main places, if not the main place, where that can be achieved with the children. So without that funding coming in, it's going to be a completely different story.